Apologies. Good afternoon, everyone. It's 2 p.m. or 2:01 now. We're going to proceed. Thank you to all of you that have joined us on this week's edition of SBL Weekly, which is being hosted by the Mining Law Committee. My name is Jumoke Fajemirokun. I'm the chairperson of the Mining Law Committee. I'm also the partner at ENR Advisory. And it's a pleasure to have all of you join us for what promises to be an insightful discussion. So as you've seen on the flyer, today's discussion has been structured as a panel, and we'll be exploring the topic unlocking the potential of Nigeria's mining sector through value addition. As you're all aware, I believe most of you will be aware, Nigeria is richly endowed with vast mineral resources, but we have not yet been able to harness the full economic benefits that can come from it. Historically, our mining sector has been focused on extraction and exporting raw materials, and this has limited the economic benefits that you can get. As a result, it's led to missed opportunities for revenue generation, job creation, and economic diversification, leading to broad-based industrialization. All of these would have resulted if we had a value addition approach in focus. So in recognition of these challenges, the federal government has in recent times made policy pronouncements regarding its stance on value addition. I'll leave that to the moderator to expand on these policy positions. So the purpose of today's discussion is to explore the concept of value addition in greater detail, discussing the government's approach to critically examine how effective this approach will be in achieving the desired outcome. And we're lucky today to have a distinguished panel of speakers whom the moderator will introduce, drawn from industry operations as well as policy development. And I believe that their insights will help us to better understand the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. So before I begin, I would like to thank our panelists for joining. I would also like to recognize the SBL chair. I believe she's on the call. Or I'm not sure she's on the call. I don't see her name yet. Mrs. Ozofo Ogemodia, our new SBL chair, and also to use this opportunity to congratulate her. At the point at which, if she's able to join the call, I'll be grateful if she can, come up and give us some form of welcome remarks or a remark at some point during the session. So I'll hand over to our moderator now, Ms. Tundu Taiwo, to begin the session. Tundu, some of you may know her on this call. She's a woman of many parts. She's our second vice chair on the Mining Law Committee. She's the managing partner of Impressa Legal, CEO of Impressa Mining. So she's also has industry operation experience. And more recently, she's the chief operating officer of Oyo State Peseta Mineral Development Company. So I'll hand over to her now. I encourage you all to actively engage in the chat room, in the Q&A box, share your thoughts as we work together to unlock the potential of value addition for our mining sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jumoke, and welcome once again to everybody. I'm excited, and as Jumoke said, the mining sector in Nigeria has been exporting, and we've never really added value addition. It's never been a thing for us. Manufacturing has not been on the focus. And the president had said most recently, July 2024, he has said that we would start adding value. Without that, if you don't have value addition in focus, license will not be given to mining company. The minister also said that at the State House recently. And the question for everybody is, where do we go from there? Nigeria has never, we are largely artisanal mining. Can artisanal mining companies actually raise the funds to manufacture before they export? As crucial as it is, as important as it is, Nigeria, at the stage where Nigeria is now, many say that we do not have capacity for that in the sector. But the question we have to answer today is, where do we go forward? And I have with me two experts in the mining industry. I have Dr. Hassan. He's a registered process engineer with the Council of Mining Engineers. He has over 38 years of industrial experience in the mining sector. He is the founding partner of Mira Associates, and at the moment is currently the president of the Nigerian Society of Mining Engineer, a vice president of the Nigerian Mining Geologists Society, and a member of NESG Mining Technical Advisory Group. I also have with me Mrs. Amira Adamu Waziri. She's a well-grounded mining expert whose education and career has been purposefully fine-tuned to the extracting industry after gaining experience in the City of London. In the last administration, she worked as a technical advisor to the last minister. So I believe these two people would be able to help us dissect and give us a meaningful discussion as we go forward. Thank you very much, our panel.
Tunde, I'm sorry, Dr. Hassan is having trouble joining, so maybe just I'll let you know as soon as he comes in.
Okay, Amira, good afternoon, Amira.
Good afternoon, Tunde, and how are you doing? Thank you for.
Fine. So I'll just start straightforward, and I'm going to ask that, given your unique expertise and in both in government and in private sector, how do you assess the feasibility of the new value addition policy for operators, particularly smaller mining companies, which Nigeria is 90% artisanal mining, small mining companies? How do you assess this going forward?
All right. First of all, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for that great introduction, Marquette. Thank you to SBL and the NBA section on business law for having us here. We've seen the recent administration really crack down on this ethos on value addition, but I think it's very important for us to really take a step back and examine where is the Nigerian mining sector at in comparison to the global mining sector. Of course, globally, there's a push for, value addition, and particularly in the oil and gas sector as well in the country. There's, we're talking about refining in oil and gas. There's the topic of the Dangote refinery. Let's stop the round tripping. Let's stop the subsidies and whatnot. But it's not comparable to mining. For starters, about 85 to 90% of the products of the Nigerian mining industries comes from artisanal and small-scale miners. That's one. What are artisanal and small-scale miners? These are miners that use primitive tools to extract products from the earth. So to impose value addition on people that are already using primitive methods to extract minerals from the ground is somewhat unrealistic. And to go as far as saying licenses will not be issued to operators unless they are going to add value to the end product is a bit much. It also raises the question of vertical integration in the sector. Does that mean that every single operator in the sector has to then operate in the upstream, midstream, and downstream? Does a miner then have to be a refiner and consequently a marketer? For me, it poses a lot of questions, and I think there needs to be, some sort of, re-examining of the policy. Let's go back to the drawing board and actually sit down and with actual people that are operating in the sector and even ancillary service providers and see what's really going on and see what's realistic and what's not.
Thank you, Amira. I'm just going to further ask you, can you shed a bit light on the economics of value additions, going by what you've just said, that Nigeria is largely artisanal mining, the exporting raw material vis-a-vis local production before exporting. Can you just shed a bit more light on the economics, the math, and profitability of that?
Yeah, of course. Unfortunately, I would have loved to, have done a deep dive on this, but I received the invites and the questions a bit late on this. But the economics of this are quite intriguing, and they're actually quite diverse. You'd find that, of course, it's a no-brainer that once you refine any metal, the value of it grows exponentially almost. So the value of any commodity, once you refine it, is higher. So the price of an ore, a mineral ore, is far less than the refined version of that ore. Meaning, for example, the value of, let's say, lithium ore is far less than a lithium ingot. The value of aluminium ore is far less than that of an aluminium ingot or powder. The value of a lead ore is far less than that of a lead ingot. The value of a copper ore is far less than copper wires or copper rods, the finished product. However, when you look at precious metals, the value of a gold ore, it really depends. When you look at alluvial gold that you mine from the ground, gold is gold. You then have to now look at the economics of the production and then the economics of the refining. What is the cost of the refining? What is the cost-benefit analysis? How much will it cost you to refine that product locally, taking into account diesel, taking into account transportation, taking into account energy, taking into account other factors, working capital, export costs, statutory charges, export charges, versus exporting, especially for small to medium scale operators, which dominate the market. Then it poses the question of, is it actually worth it? So I think it's a very interesting question to pose. And I think there's no straight answer for it. You then have to start asking yourself the question, okay, what is the size of the operator? What mineral or metal is the operator dealing with? What countries are they operating, are they exporting the mineral or metal to? What incentives are in place? What is the size or what sort of refining method are they using? So I think it's a very, very complex question once you get into it. So the short answer to it is, it depends. And I'm very glad that our father, Dr. Umar Hassan, is here, who's a seasoned metallurgist. I'm going to hand it over to him so he can perhaps shed some more light on that.
Good afternoon, Dr. Hassan, and welcome once again. Thank you, Amira. Thank you so much for answering those questions. Thank you for shedding so much light. Dr. Hassan, it's good to see you again.
Okay, nice to see you too. Yes.
Thank you and welcome. We are discussing value addition, as you know, and I'm going to ask the question, what does value addition mean in the context of mining industry? Because the question has been, do we need to turn it to concentrate? Is that value addition? Do we need to manufacture, let's say lithium now, do we need to manufacture it to the battery? Is that value addition? So can you just explain to us what value addition means in the context of the mining sector, and why is it considered so crucial for the development of the Nigerian economy? Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you, my sister Tudun, and thanks the participants. I really need to apologize for joining in late. Well, value addition, to be precise, is a process that involves adding value to materials extracted from the earth. That means run of mines. So whatever that you need to do to increase the value of that extracted material from the mine is value addition in terms of money. So if I can just put it this way, if, for example, you start from the simple process of a quarry, you drill and blast rock, then the blasted rocks that come in ballast themselves, some are not useful because of their size. So you need to break them into the required size specifications that are required by the construction industries. That means into chippings. So that is value addition. So if you take in the case of a metallic mineral, say, for example, maybe lead zinc, you drill and blast, that's what's being mined from the mine. Then for you to add value, because there are different phases, we'll possibly first separate the various minerals into the valuable minerals into different portions, which are called concentrates. So producing from the run of mine into, for example, zinc concentrate or lead concentrate, that is one phase of value addition. And you can also add value into that concentrate by extracting the lead as lead metal through smelting, same for zinc as zinc metal through smelting. So that also is another phase of value addition. So I mean, you're starting from your run of mine, minus materials brought in from the mine, producing separate valuable commodities, say lead and zinc as concentrates, and then you now go into the next phase of smelting, producing your lead metal or your zinc metal. And then if you can also have a situation whereby the various materials like the gold my sister talked about and lithium, if you take gold, for example, you produce your raw gold from the mine because your run of mine will give you a crude mixture of gold and the various waste materials. You can produce depending on the nature of the gold. If it's sulfide related, you produce the concentrate, then you smelt or extract to get your raw gold. And then that raw gold, which is about 85% gold, is not what is required by the London Bullion Market Association. That means that's not refined to the finest level. So you now need to refine that to get your 4 nines, that's 99.9% gold. So that is refining. And then you also now need to take it to another stage of another value addition, wanting to probably produce your jewelry from your gold. So that is your final product, which you will sell to your final consumers. Of course, refined gold can also be considered as a final product in the fact that for those who are investing in gold, central banks, for example, and the investors. So value addition and the summary in mining is adding value to whatever material that's mined from the mine to add value to it to produce a product that meets specification of the consumer, be it in terms of size ranges for the quarry operations, in terms of concentrates for smelters buying the metal concentrate, or producing your crude metal, and then after which you need to refine. So for example, if you take iron ore in the steel industry we're talking about, you mine your iron ore, you have to produce iron ore concentrate, and then from the concentrate, you now smelt to produce your pig iron, which is the crude iron, which you need to refine to produce your steel. So, and then that steel can now be casted into various products, be they the iron rods, wire rods, the billets, and all sorts of things, which you can now use to produce the various products. So that is what value addition in mining is. But there's also another thing that I need to add. It's not every material that you mine, because there's what is called from mine to shipment, meaning that you might have a very, very rich deposit that in terms of grade, assay, the quality already meets the specification. So you can actually just mine it, crush and grind it to require size specification. If it's iron ore, you can produce, say, the pellets, iron on the form of pellets, or in a form of these pellets that you can sell to the smelters that you can use in feeding to their various steel making plants. So that's what value addition is in summary, adding value to whatever run of mine that is produced. And then, as I said, there are various, the value chains are plenty, from the crude, concentrate, if it's metallic to metal mineral, and then refined to your final metal. And then if you need to produce your final products, in the case of the jewelry, you produce jewels. And then if you want to produce your metal products, that's the metal production aspect that also forms in terms of value addition.
Thank you, Dr. Assad. And if I can hear you right, I think that what I can hear is it depends on what you want to use the mineral for. At what stage do you need to add so much value? I think at some point concentrate might be good, but I know that in Nigeria, and this is buttress what you said, we have gadolinium quality lead that is high concentrate lead in some places that might not be necessary for us to add so much value. And that takes me to, if we should enforce this policy, and going by your strong background in policy making and also now an industry player, what are your thoughts on the long-term impact of value addition policy in the Nigerian mining sector if this policy were to be enforced now?
If the policy were to be enforced, value addition would actually be, it will, number one, bring in industrialization, because there will be industries, established processing plants across the country that are producing various products, which hitherto do not exist. So that will add to that aspect of producing mineral commodities that the local industries will require. It will increase revenue streams because the value of the material products you are going to sell would increase. And most of those will most likely be exported. So meaning that you're going to earn extra foreign exchange for the country, diversifying your sources of foreign exchange into the country, because whoever produces will need to sell and export them. The proceeds will come through the CBN. And that, I believe, will increase our revenues. It will increase gross domestic product contribution from the sector, meaning that the mining sector with value addition introduced will be made to be a significant revenue contributor to the Nigerian economy. Jobs creation will be massive because all the processing plants will require persons who are going to run those mills. There will be skills acquisition. Establishment of processing plants is highly technical, technical oriented. So skills will be developed within the Nigerian citizenry. The professionals that we have will be highly trained. Infrastructure development definitely would come up strongly, and that not only that, value addition requires massive amounts of energy, electricity-wise. So two aspects. Most of the mines that are going to be establishing processing plants would require electricity supply to drive the machines that would go into that. It's either they establish, first, either government improves power generation across the country into the national grid, or the various processing plants will have to establish their own processing power plants that would power the station. So that means there will be improvement, massive improvement, because most of these processing plants, when they generate the power, there will definitely be excess power that will go into the national grid. So there will be improvement also in terms of power that will be distributed and the citizen can benefit from it. And then not only that, the host communities would have massive social and infrastructure developments around their environment, because there is no way that a processing plant would generate power, for example, and they would not at least link the community and lighten it up. Economic activities around the mines and the processing plant will be massive. So enforcement of value addition in Nigeria would no doubt bring mining to the fore, and it will make mining compete with the oil and gas sector in terms of foreign exchange earning, revenue generation, job creation, and gross domestic GDP contributions into the Nigerian economy.
Thank you, Dr. Hassan. And I would say that thank you for painting the Nigerian dream of the mining sector. And it looks like a good one, but I'm going to go back to Amira now and ask her that, what do you think is the reality on ground as to this policy? And I'm going to also ask you, Dr. Hassan, after now. Amira, how do you see the interplay between government and this policy and the reality of the Nigerian mining sector? And what gaps that needs to be addressed to make this sector, to make this policy more effective?
Well, the reality on ground is very different. As Dr. Hassan has rightfully said, there's a lot of work to be done in terms of development, infrastructure, electricity, just things, enabling factors that need to be achieved before the Nigerian mining dream can be achieved. But for me, I think the number one thing that needs to be, sorry, I'm just reading the question again. The number one gap that needs to be addressed by the government in order for the policy to be more effective is a human resource gap. So in order for the government to, for example, make this policy more effective, we need hands on ground. What do I mean by that? For example, federal mines officers, there's one federal mine officer per state. If a policy like this were to be enforced in an ideal environment where, let's say, every mining company would be able to do something like this, we would need more people, more foot soldiers on the ground to make sure that things like this are happening. We need more incentives. We need a more stable policy direction, long-term, by the government. We need, a clear direction and over a longer period of time so that investors would feel more comfortable over different regime changes, over different governments, to say that, okay, this is where Nigeria is going. We know that the mining sector is a priority. We know that value addition is something that they have in mind and is going to be so for the next 20 years because mining is a long-term business. So if we come and we invest billions of dollars in this sector, we know that our capital is going to be safe for the next 20, 30 years. So for me, this is the main thing that I would say. And also, I think prioritizing Nigerian human capital as well. Rather than focusing on outsiders, I think once we prioritize our own people and we develop our own skills within the Nigerian people, I think that will develop a sense of pride within the Nigerian country. So I don't know if it's making sense. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I'm just going to go back to Dr. Hassan now. And Dr. Hassan, and still on the question, what are the key challenges and opportunities presented by this value addition policy? And how can stakeholders work together to address them? I know that somebody had said at some point that let's begin to have aggregation center for concentrate and all of that. So the question now is, what are the key opportunities and the challenges that we might face, and how can stakeholders work together to address them? Dr. Hassan.
Yes, thank you. Well, the key challenges, like she has mentioned, human capital, human resource that will be required to drive the value addition is what particularly the Nigerian side of it. But I believe with time the gap should be filled up because the companies establishing the value addition centers would definitely come in with some form of trainings. And it's not that in Nigeria we completely lack the necessary professionals. All that's properly done, of course, like in every processing plant or any plant that's been established, there will be commissioning and training of personnel that's going to operate those plants. So that skill acquisition will be there, and in time that shouldn't be a big challenge. That should be filled. The other challenge, like I mentioned earlier on during my first response, is that of power, electricity. It's a serious challenge, and I think now that government is having in mind of introducing or enforcing power addition in the sector, power generation, government should do whatever it can, because there's no need in insisting on value addition and then cost of production is so high, then they will find it difficult to compete with other countries that produce same commodities, and they'll be going to the same international market to sell those commodities. So power generation is also going to be a challenge, serious challenge. The other one has to do with logistics. road, rails, and others, and cost of transportation. I think all of us are aware of the high cost of energy. Our roads are in a bad state. Our railway lines are basically not functioning. Most of these goods is in the world, but the beauty of value addition is that you're going to reduce the waste that will be transported across the line. But even at that, there will still be need for logistics movements of these materials. So railway lines needs to be put in place by government. And for operators, I think it's a great opportunity for joint partnerships because of the massive resources required to establish processing plants. Operators will need to pool their resources together, form syndicates that would establish processing centers jointly. So for example, if you take like any of the metallic ores that you want to smelt, one single mine might not be able to produce the needed feed materials for a smelting plant that should operate economically. So operators will need to bring in their resources together, establish a joint smelter in Nigeria, for example, for lead and zinc, that all the concentrates can be smelted there and
is it Dr. Hassan now or is it me?
I think it's
okay.
It's Dr. Hassan.
yes.
their resources to establish the processing centers. Similarly, and not only lead zinc, tin, that's cassiterite smelting, all metallic melting, there's a need for us to establish those. Concentration because going by the Nigerian Minerals and Mining Act and its regulation, any mineral title that's granted, it's already assumed they're going to produce beneficent, no doubt about it. It's already captured, it's assumed, because that is what. And then if there's any need of for a person to establish a processing plant outside a mineral titled area, it's only then that you will seek for permit from the Mines Inspection Department. So that has already been taken care of. So great opportunities lies, and also the other challenge is funding. So there need to be established funding windows that can at least be granted to operators of single-digit interest rate. With that, it will make it a lot easier to source for funds that can help in establishing all those processing centers. Currently, the banks that we have locally do not have that capacity. So even though SMDF along with AFC are working towards providing necessary funding, I believe more needs to be done towards that if we are to achieve our desired target of value addition in Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hassan. And I hear you. If I'm correct, what you've said is that it's possible for us to actually enforce value addition, but it would be a bit difficult where we are now to tie it that every license holder has to have an operational processing plant. What we can do is to aggregate and come together to create processing plants. And I also hear the cost of.
Can I just make a correction? Every mine is supposed to have at least that processing/beneficiation plant to add value to whatever run of mine they produce. Where the various operators need to come together are in the establishment of smelting plants, if there's a need to establish a smelter. Because if operators are meant to put resources to establish one processing center, then there will be serious challenges of moving the run of mine from their mines to their processing center. But they can reduce the waste material at the mines by separating the concentrates from the waste materials there and then, and leaving the waste there, maximizing whatever byproducts they need to produce along with the valuable products. So it is only the valuable minerals that will now be transported to the smelting plant. So they need to pull in their resources. So for example, those exporting tin concentrate to China and other countries, they, instead of taking the concentrate out, those concentrates can be smelted in Nigeria. That something that such thing used to happen in the past when we used to have mercury smelting plant in Jos. And all the tin concentrates produced in Nigeria were fed into that plant, and it was only tin metal that was exported out of the country. So operators and financial institutions can pool resources together to establish those relevant smelting plants that will focus for calcitrate, that's tin, focus for lead, zinc, focus for all the metallic minerals, even iron ore. We should even, for now, stop even thinking of Ajaokuta alone. There should be mini steel producing plants in Nigeria that operators can pull in their resources and establish mini steel plants so that we can produce steel in the country.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hassan. And I'm just going to ask the last question before we move to question and answers. I see that there's a question already up there. And I'm just going to ask, professional bodies such as the Nigerian Society of Mineral Engineers and other professional bodies, what role do you think they can play to make this policy come to actualization and easier for it to?
Well, they have very major role because they are the professionals who are going to operate these mines, operate the processing plants, and they will need to improve, starting from the university, at least improve the curriculum that will make the students there employable. So they will need to also introduce this regular training that will make the various professionals who probably have graduated several years ago and have lost touch so that they can keep on improving their capacity to move into the new direction that government is charting, enforcing the value addition. It's not that value addition has not been there in our laws. It has been there all along. The only challenge is that the various governments the previous administrations have not made sure that all mines add value to whatever they are producing. So I think professionals have a big role in providing the necessary professionals that will work hand in hand with operators and ensuring that value is added to whatever materials that are mined from our mines.
Thank you so much, Prof. Dr. Hassan. And I'm just going to go to the questions now that has been put on the question and answer board. It appears to me that the matter of value addition should be in context of green economy. What is your take? And in addition to that question, my above question is predicated on the fact that the green economy will obviously drive a higher demand for solid mineral and therefore critical to the green evolution, which has initiated another scramble for Africa.
Yes, value addition is a matter for economics. There's no doubt about that. But the fact is this: if one mines and produces materials that do not meet specification, that material cannot be sold. So in value addition, there are different strategies or different scenarios that can be taken into consideration to ensure that materials are produced to meet the various specifications. And it's the size of the plant that really matters. We do not, if somebody wants to go into value addition, there's no need establishing a very large size plant when he knows that the feedstock from his mine cannot adequately feed that processing plant. So the size of the plant should be commensurate to whatever every mine is producing. So that is, economics play a critical role, there's no doubt about that. Regarding the green economy that it talks about, particularly the critical metals, that is the battery minerals that we're talking about now for the green energy. Yes, it's key. And currently in Nigeria, we all know that lithium mining is everywhere. That's for lithium, apart from the graphite that is there. And we do not have cobalt, but those two are key, are available. And there's no way that you can produce lithium without value addition, because the grade of materials coming from the mines range between 1 to 2% 2.5. And for you to produce a concentrate that can produce the lithium carbonate or lithium hydroxide, you need to concentrate it to at least between that 5 and 7% lithium, particularly for spodumene. So that is essential. There's no way that value addition would not play a critical role in that. And I think by adding value, the various mines and operators will smile to the bank because they would have increased the value of their products government will also smile because they will also have improved taxes, at least from the income tax of the various operations that are going to be running. Royalty, of course, remains because is the quantity of material that's produced from the mine that's charged as royalty. So I believe that should be okay.
All right, thank you very much. And I have another question. I think I will just read out what the president has said on the matter. Please, I need clarity. Does the policy intend to make every miner also a processor? Is it not possible for licensed processor and give them incentive to take raw commodity from ASM artisanal miners and process them for either domestic market or export? So the president, through the representative by the vice president, said this, and I'm going to read out exactly what he said around commodities, and understand that it is time to change this narrative. By doing so, we aim to ensure that our teaming youth are actively engaged in economic activities, acquiring skills, and contributing to the national foreign exchange earning. Therefore, the ministry will only issue mining licenses if they are tied to value addition. So yes, that's what the policy tends to seek. I know that the mind of that policy is probably we should stop exporting raw materials. There should be some sort of value addition. But that statement that caused a bit of rambling in the industry seemed like it's saying that except if you are adding value in some sort, we will not give you mineral. We will not give you a license to mine. And I think the way around it, as you suggested, is that, and that's what both panelists have said earlier, is that to start looking for how we would aggregate. So what might be stopped is not necessarily mining raw materials and you have to process yourself. What might be stopped eventually, looking at the reality of Nigeria, will be exporting raw material unprocessed at all or any form of value addition. So that's where the policy is, and we are looking forward to how it to play out where we are. With policy incurrence, policy inconsistency, and policy failure, Dr. Hassan, please, you would answer this. What do you think that the government should do to encourage industry players to achieve the desired value addition?
Well, the challenges, government should look at the challenges that we mentioned that will hinder value addition. But if I would just, before I answer this, I would just add to that. The previous question, you see, like I said earlier on, the law provides that every person who acquires a mineral title, particularly a mining lease, quarry lease, small-scale mining lease, goes along with the saying that they are supposed to engage in value addition. If you go to Section 68F of the Nigerian Minerals and Mining Act of 2007, is there specifically. Those that do not have mineral titles are those that require special permits from the Mines Inspectorate Department to establish processing centers. So every person who has a mine is, number one, also expected to have value addition attached to his operations. As to what government will do to operators to ensure that value addition is done, like the issue of, most of them are crying of these funding challenges. Government should consider establishing financing windows that will provide single-digit interest rate to operators. Yes, single-digit interest rates, so that funding will be available for establishment of processing plants. And then issue of power generation, energy, that's fuels and others, whatever that needs to be done to ensure that, well, the prices are there. Government does not engage in marketing of fuels. However, if we are a fuel producing nation, petrol producing nation, we should get our refineries working so that the products will be available, and also the use of gas for power generation. Gas should be as much as possible made available for operators to acquire and establish electricity generation plant powered by gas. That is essential. So logistic-wise, the roads and railways, government, that is something that at least the major trunk A's and railway lines linking across the nation is the work of government needs to provide that. And they can even use that as equity in joining most of these operators as equity holders in their operations, just like they do in the oil and gas sector. So government can acquire equity and also enhance their revenue generation. So provision of funding is a major challenge. Infrastructure, electricity generation, logistics, roads and railway lines. These are things that government should try to provide. And wherever mineral endowments are known to exist, any zone, government should do whatever they can to open up those areas by constructing good roads to those axes and also railway lines passing very close to the place so that the operators can only construct a few railway tracks to join with the main railway line. I think if they do that, they would facilitate operators to ensure on value addition.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And before we come to the end, I'm just going to ask you if you have any final thought, any other thing you might want to add to everything that you said this afternoon. Your very, very insightful contribution so far.
Well, the only thing is this. Value addition is a good thing for the Nigerian mining sector. There's no doubt about that. And whatever that we need to do as professionals and operators, we should do to at least support government, ensuring that the sector takes up value addition seriously, because by so doing, would bring the mining sector to the fore, making it to be seen as a very strategic sector. Currently, we are not being looked at as a strategic sector, and that's why funding to the sector is very, very low. By the time that they see revenues coming from this sector is massive, government would look at us like they look at the oil and gas sector and support us adequately. So whatever we need to do as operators and professionals, we should do to ensure that value addition takes up perfectly in the nation.
Thank you very much, sir. And thank you very much, Amira, also. And I believe that it's been a very insightful session so far today. I've learned a lot. And what I can hear is that it might be difficult to say that value addition is still manufacturing stage, but every mining company should be able to add some sort of value, even if it's concentrate. And for it to be easy, we must look at the issue of funding, single digit interest rate fundings. We should look at power, which is always the problem of doing business in Nigeria. Infrastructure in terms of railway transportation. I know that a lot of time, sometimes even after you mine, you need to wait for days to truck to town, especially when you're doing industrial, like lithium now, is very difficult. So we should begin to look at infrastructure, and those will help manufacturing and how processing companies can begin to aggregate, manufacture it better out of concentrate, either to make it rods and all of that. And as industry players, both as lawyers, stakeholders in any form that is on the board, we need to start to think of how do we make mining sector a strategic sector that's contributing immensely to the GDP. I believe that if there's any spike in that, in the GDP contribution, there will be a lot of attention, like other sector is getting a lot of attention, like solid mineral across Nigeria, across the world is getting, because across the world, solid mineral is quite big, is a sort of revenue for a lot of countries. But Nigeria hasn't been able to get there, despite the fact that they say we are blessed with 44 minerals across every state in Nigeria. Literally everybody, every state can contribute to the GDP in terms of solid mineral. Thank you very much, everybody. I've had a great time. Once again, my name is Tunjo Taiwo. I'm second vice chair of the Mining Law Committee. I'm going to hand over to my chairperson, my chairman, chairlady, Jumoke Bajamiroko, to introduce the chairperson of the NBA-SBL.
Thank you very much, Tundu. Thank you very much for moderating the panel so excellently. Thank you, Dr. Hassan. Thank you, Amira. I mean, the insights you brought were really thought-provoking, and I believe everybody has gained a lot from the discussion and also strategies or ideas to chat us forward towards shared prosperity for the mining sector. So at this point, I would just like to quickly introduce our SBL chair, Mrs. Ozofo Ogemodia. I'm very pleased to mention once again that this is her first SBL Weekly since assuming the role. So we're honored to have you here. And so over to you. Thank you very much for participating. And
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Jumoke. I'd like to thank our very erudite panel today, Dr. Hassan and Ms. Waziri, as well as our very able moderator for a very enlightening session. I am one of the, I'm sure many Nigerians that know little about the mining sector, but from what I heard about value addition, I think two things struck me. One, that the challenges that the sector faces in relation to value addition, and as identified by the speakers, such as power and infrastructural challenges, human capital development, and long-term consistent government policy and strategy, are not unique to mining. It's unfortunate to say, but those are the sorts of limitations that generally pervade several sectors of our economy where we recognize the potential but have not been able to harness it. But I think that it's important to keep having these conversations. That is the only way if we persist, then we get the government to do what needs to be done. I think also the private sector should be challenged to do what they can within the capacity that we have to strive for value addition. As we can see in other sectors like agriculture and oil and gas, value addition is much needed to really reap the benefits of the sector and to develop local capacity and not have to keep relying on either foreign human capital or imports. So I want to thank the panel again. Thank you very much. And thank you to our audience. We have a very good turnout and people have stayed on to the end of the webinar. So thank you for your time. Hope you enjoyed spending your lunchtime with us. And we look forward to hosting you for many other Business Weekly webinars. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.